Hello, everyone. Welcome to our final installment of the 2020 Capital City Pride Speaker Series, sponsored by Federal Home Loan Bank of Des Moines. My name is Mark Sengen. I'm the Director of Community Diversity and Education for Capital City Pride, and I'm coming to you live from my home office on all of our various streams. So the last time we gathered was in September for our last speaker, Jen Loeb, where we learned about her experience being the first woman from Iowa to climb Mount Everest, and she shared with us her journeys all across the world. We'd like to welcome you back because we are excited this month to highlight another speaker that will again take us past central Iowa and share with us the exciting work taking place that's benefiting many diverse communities. Now, those of you watching via any of our streams, please submit any questions as we progress. We may not get to every single one right in the moment, but we do have time dedicated for your questions. Now, allow me to introduce our guest speaker for this evening, Jaci McCormack. Jaci grew up on a reservation and is an enrolled member of the Nez Perce Tribe. She was raised by her grandparents in Idaho before transferring to affluent Lake Oswego High School in Oregon. There, Jaci earned a full ride scholarship to Illinois State University, where she earned her BS in sociology. Now, Jaci's senior year at college, the women's basketball team won the MVC conference tournament, where Jaci was named tournament MVP after she threw the game-winning shot that was then featured on ESPN's Top Plays of the Week. And to this day, Jaci is the only Nez Perce tribal member to play in the NCAA tournament. But most recently, Jaci has co-founded Rise Above, a registered 501(c) nonprofit organization aimed at empowering youth using sports as a modality. And Jaci's life story also caught the attention of Hollywood, and there is currently a feature film being made of her journey from the reservation to Illinois State. Now, Jaci lives in Seattle, Washington, and is currently working for the Tulalip Tribe's prosecutor's office, serving as the Victim Services Coordinator. And with that, I would love to welcome Jaci McCormack to our stream. Hey, Jaci, welcome. We're excited to have you here.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. And Jaci, the floor is all yours.
All right, so I guess first of all, thanks so much for tuning in, and just gonna take you through like who I am, where I grew up, and then how we progressed to where we are today with Rise Above. So, Hillary, if you want to start the video. So this is young Jaci playing at a Boys and Girls Club. It was an all boys league. And I was the only girl, if you can see, playing on the boys team. And I really wanted to show this video because that's really where my passion for the game and Rise Above started. And, you know, I grew up with my grandparents, like Mark had mentioned, and I grew up with my grandparents in Lapwai, Idaho. So you want to show the picture? So I don't know if you can all see this. So I just wanted to give you like a geographic idea of where the reservation is, where in Idaho. It's, you know, very north, right below the Panhandle. And the town that I grew up in is about 1,000 people. So I was raised in this little town of Lapwai, Idaho on the Nez Perce Reservation. And our school, you know, when I started going to high school in Lapwai, I think, you know, our class sizes were maybe 25 kids. So I went from living in Lapwai, living on the reservation, to knowing every single person basically in my town, every single person in my class, and moving to Lake Oswego. So I'll get to that a little bit later. But you can show the pictures of the family if you want, just to give you an idea. So I have 3 siblings. That was me. In our Tribune, we're actually talking about Thanksgiving. So growing up, sports is always a part of my background, and I was never forced to really partake in sports. It was just something that I did and something that I enjoyed. And I am so thankful for my family for that, because we talk about the Rise Above, really exposing kids to new opportunities, and that's something that I was exposed to at a young age, and it just I took it and just ran with it. So the picture that's on the screen now, that's actually my grandparents, my mom and dad. So, and that's at my older sister's very first communion. So I also show this because I was raised as a Catholic, like hardcore, praying the rosary, going to CCD classes on Sunday. And, that was just something that was really important to my mom. So what's kind of, a lot of people talk about the religion and how it's influenced our Native communities. And, um, my mom went off to a Catholic boarding school where her braids were cut off and she was not allowed to speak her native tongue and her native language. So she's not a fluent speaker. And I've never really had these deep conversations with my mom before. And so it's always been interesting for me to listen to my mom and how much faith has driven her, which has, she's passed that down to me, and faith in my life plays a big role. But I've never really asked her how that's impacted her, and, going off to boarding school and have these traumatic experiences, and basically having your heritage and your culture torn from you, and then keeping that faith all throughout your life. And my mom is really an amazing woman who I look up to. And I'll kind of talk about how that religious influenced me as a person as I kind of grew up. Um, so you can go to the next picture if you want. So I guess we want to go into the next question mark, or sorry.
Sure, Jackie, that would be great. Talk to us a little bit about your how you transitioned from your upbringing. You mentioned your mother a lot, and where you went from there, and take us into your college years, and how that got you, how that was the next step in your journey.
Yeah, so sorry. I got a lot of like things going through my head. So there's a couple of things. I guess growing up as a native in a small town, you have the struggles of just being like small town, right? Everybody knows everything. And one of the things that we try to do with Rise Above is really, kind of be who you are. And when I grew up, as a Catholic, doing my first communion and going to church, and um, whatever that looked like, it was, something that like I internalized, and I took that to heart. And I was proud of my heritage. I was proud of where I came from. And I never realized the influence of my environment had on me until later on. And um, when I left Lapwai, living in this small community, I left my sophomore year, the end of my sophomore year, beginning of my junior year. And for the first 2 years, I was Idaho State Player of the Year, and I was on track to be the first ever 4-time Idaho Player of the Year. And, something happened, and I had to make a decision of I continue down this path and continue with these struggles, or I start over, I get some new opportunity. And that's what I did. So I went to Lake Oswego. I transferred to Lake Oswego. It was a really hard decision. And after this move, and as I've been like talking to people now, present day, of what that impact was on some of these projects we're working on, one of the people that is near and dear to me, talked about how hard it was for him and his family, because they lost not only me as a basketball player, but their family lost me too. And I never really thought about that the community lost me. I felt like I lost my community, and it was so hard for me to leave the reservation and make that decision of leaving everything and everyone and everything that I love behind, and moving to a brand new school. And moving to Lake Oswego, and I don't know if anybody has any idea where Lake Oswego, Oregon is, but it is one of the richest public high schools in Oregon. And I was probably, I, I could probably count on my hands and toes the amount of minorities that were in the entire school. So I went from a school of, maybe 100 kids total to 1,200 kids at Lake Oswego, and just quite frankly, just didn't fit in. I didn't fit in academically. I didn't fit in socially. There's not one way that I fit in. So sports was the way that kind of kept me sane, and it led me to new opportunities at Lake Oswego. I used sport really to um, escape. Basketball has always been my escape, and no matter what was going on in my life, I could always just grab a basketball and find peace. Wherever that was, whatever that meant, it was basketball that brought me peace. So I actually connected with my coach in Lake Oswego, and he was an amazing mentor to me. And I always tell people this story when when I went to Lake Oswego. We were playing this other Lake Ridge High School, and it was a girl. She was a McDonald's All-American, so one of the top players in the country. And he came up to me before the game, and he said, "The only difference between you and her is that she's been here for 4 years and you've only been here for one." And he said, "You are a bona fide Division I player." And what I thought was really cool is like how much confidence he came in me. At the time, I had no idea what bona fide meant. So after the game, I went home and Googled, or probably didn't Google, I looked it up in the dictionary of what the heck bona fide meant. But the importance of that, of having somebody have so much belief in you at a young age, when I was a very vulnerable person, really really changed my life. There's a lot of people that influenced my life, but him being there on that time and having that belief in me was everything. I mean, it changed my confidence in the classroom. It changed my confidence on the court. I was going to Lake Oswego where some of my friends were taking visits to the University of Arizona, and I was like, "Oh, that's so cool. You're getting a scholarship to Arizona." And she said, "No, I'm just going down there to see if I like the school." And my mind was blown. Like, I didn't know people just went to colleges just to see if they liked the college or not. So, those were some of the changes that I went through. And I just remember struggling so hard. And, my mom, as my grandma, retired when I was a freshman. So every day when I got home from work, or I got home from school, she was there. She was present. She was, cooking dinner, cleaning the house, wandering around, running errands. But I saw her every day. And I had no idea what that meant to me, is seeing her every day, until I moved to Lake Oswego. I lived with my aunt and uncle, and they had two little boys at the time. And, both working parents and very active children in sports. And I would come home to an empty house. And I remember my mom calling me one day, and we didn't have cell phones, and so it was, the phone, and it didn't have a cord though, it was cordless. So my mom calls one day, and I'm on the phone, and she's asking how school's going, how the transition is, and I was like, "Mom, it's so great. I love it. It's so amazing. I'm meeting so many people. Basketball's great, school's great." And all the while, I was like, tears were streaming down my face because of the struggle of really missing home. And I can remember that feeling to this day. And I always say, and I always tell in my story of, there's no way that I would be where I'm at today if I did not go to through that struggle of leaving my reservation, leaving my family, going to Lake Oswego. And honestly, I don't even know if it wasn't for Lake Oswego, because I was so different from everybody else. It really helped me in the long run. I remember being at the high school, and this, young girl was asking me. She was like, "Hey, what are you?" I said, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Well, like, what are you?" I was like, "Guess." I mean, she guessed everything, like every ethnicity you could think of, she guessed. I said, "Nope, nope." And she's like, "Well, there's nothing left." And I was like, "Well, actually, there is." And I remember telling her when I was Native American, like the look on her face, like we didn't exist. And I know that we talked previously, like in our side conversations about, being an intersectional human and how that's, impacted me. And it really is tough. You oftentimes, get asked, people, first of all, don't know we exist. And you oftentimes get asked to represent your entire race when you're in a classroom or you're doing a talk or whatever that looks like. You're asked to like really speak for all of Indian country, is what I call it. And because I don't know, because we're so small, I guess. I don't know. Um, but that was really challenging for me to like understand that people didn't know. I joke about this all the time that I had no idea what Indian style meant until I moved to Lake Oswego. Like, you sit Indian style, and I was like, what the heck is Indian style? And they told me it's when you cross your legs, it's in the circle. And I had no idea that's what that meant until I moved to Lake Oswego. So there's a lot of like really weird stories, or like people are gonna have a powwow on the side, and I was like, what do you mean? They're like, oh, we're just gonna meet over here. And I was like, oh, okay, that's called a powwow. Got it. All right. Um, so I picked up a lot of new terms and new meanings. But really, the struggle at Lake Oswego really prepared me for my entire life. So after Lake Oswego, I graduated and got a full scholarship to Illinois State. And um, sorry, I'm trying to read also. So I went to Illinois State, got a full scholarship, and I don't know how many people in Iowa or around who are listening know where Illinois State is. It's in Normal, Illinois, and it's about 32 hours from my hometown. So when I went to Illinois State, it was another hard transition, but it wasn't like when I was in Lake Oswego, and that transition of, leaving my family again. It was just different this time. And I knew that when I stepped foot in Lake Oswego, that I was going to figure out a way to give back to kids because of all the struggles that I overcame personally. I knew how many sacrifices not only I had to make, but my family had to make. And I knew at that moment when I arrived at Illinois State that I was going to find a way to give back. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what that looked like, but I always told myself that I was going to give back in some way or another. Um, Sorry, I'm just reading. So, kind of taking me through college, my sophomore year, I got hurt and I had to redshirt, and that was probably one of the hardest years in college for me. And having basketball taken away from me, I really never had basketball completely taken away from me and stripped from me. And when that's your only outlet, it was really hard. I struggled. Some of the best decisions my coaches made were not allowing me to go home for Thanksgiving, limited Christmas, and making me travel with the team when I didn't want to, because it would have been really easy for me to quit and throw in the towel during that time. And when you're 32 hours away from your entire family, and there's no Native American tribes around, and you can't find anybody who looks like you and has the same experience, it was really hard for me. And I remember telling my coach so many times. I remember going into her office, and as soon as I got there as my freshman year, it was like, I don't know, humidity at 90% or something. And I was like, I can't live here. Um, but more than that, there were so many struggles. I would go into my coach's office and I was like, you know what, I quit. And she would talk me off the ledge, and I would come in again and I'd be like, hey, I quit. This isn't for me. I just want to go home. I miss my family. And I really can't tell you how many times that I quit. I mean, it was countless, countless times. And finally, one day, my coach just looked at me and she said, you know what, Jackie, go ahead and quit. Go back to the res and become another statistic of somebody who should have made it but didn't. At that very moment, something clicked for me, and I was angry. I was angry with her. I was like, how you're not allowed to say that to me. But I never quit again. It was something that I actually learned about myself recently, is you don't really have to I operate in a weird way, I guess. When people say that I can't do something, I would rather prove them wrong than than anything. And especially when it's something that I'm passionate about. So after that, I never quit, right? In college, as you know, you're finding yourself and who you are, and um, all the things that influence a college student, time management and working out and being sore and figuring out how to play basketball and go to school in between all of those. Um, for 4 years after that, I remember being in practice and always telling my teammates, like, do the countdown for the ESPN, right? Like, so they would do the countdown and I would hit the shot and we would do the ESPN da 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 da. And I cannot tell you how many times that we did that. And I tell you that, like, because I think it's so important for us to have like goals. As a college kid playing Division I basketball, my goal was to win a championship and to be on ESPN. That was something that was not a pipe dream to me. I really felt it. I really wanted that, and I envisioned that for 4 years. So my senior year, we got an opportunity to do that, and at the end of the game, I was fortunate enough to be able to have the ball in my hands at the end of the game and hit the game-winning shot and sent us to the NCAA tournament for the first time in like 13 years or something. And I just remember how many times that I practiced that shot and it going in. And that's how I ended my collegiate career. So it was a wild ride up to that. I know, like, I'm like moving around a lot. So I'm going to take a pause and check in with Mark.
Wow, Jackie, this is quite the journey already. We have a couple of questions that have come in here. When you think about, you had mentioned the environment you grew up in and how difficult it was to leave your reservation and being away from your family, especially your mom here. What do you remember most fondly from your younger days? And do you draw upon those to inspire you still today?
For me, it's my family. We did everything together as a family. We traveled together. We went to basketball, softball tournaments together, and just remember always being with my family and always the close knit, environment that we lived in. And growing up, I would always go to birthday parties for other kids. They would have these store-bought cakes, and I would like be, Mom, like, why do I always have to have the homemade cake? Now I appreciate it. But like, we always ate dinner together, and it was just a really healthy and supportive environment. So absolutely, I think the important part of that story is, how much my family just supported me in what I did. And I always tell kids, when we work with them, like, you have to find somebody that you can confide in. You have to find a good mentor that can support you in the good days and the bad days. So absolutely, the family support and the close knit community for sure.
Yeah. We have a comment here that came in from Facebook from Destiny, and you mentioned this, it's tough to learn a new routine and, forge that new path to familiarity. What did you draw upon to find that strength, to really put your passion forefront and, take those leaps away from family?
I was on a bad path, and when I was living on the reservation, I was making really bad decisions as a teenage kid, going through these big life experiences. I was drinking, I was smoking weed, and just making all these negative decisions that a lot of teenagers are making. And when I moved to Lake Oswego, I stopped drinking, I stopped smoking, and I knew when I left the reservation that so many people had sacrificed for me to get where I'm at, that I had to give back. Like, I had to give back. There was something that they had given up that I had to make myself grateful, right? I had to do something with what they gave up. Their sacrifices had to be for something. And I wasn't going to let their sacrifices and my sacrifice, leaving my community, leaving my family, for nothing. And that's really what drove me is, I couldn't just go on and just be mediocre. And that was my driving force. I also had, my dad I was in when I was in college, and he would talk with people, and he heard people, I don't know if it was indirectly or directly, really making bets about how long I would stay in college. Like, well, how long do you think this one's going to last, kind of, because there are a lot of talented natives that are going off to college and playing sports at any level now more than ever. But back then it was not as familiar. People didn't see it as often, and there was a lot of college coaches that looked negatively upon people coming from the reservation because of this close knit community and how we supported each other. And it was okay if you wanted to come home, and it was okay if you got homesick and come here. Let's share a meal. So when my dad had told me that, people were basically betting on how long it was going to be before I failed and came home, um, that also hit home for me. I mean, it was difficult to hear, but it was also something that motivated me to kind of keep going.
Sounds like it really lit that fire, like when you shared that your basketball coach did as well. And as we'll hear a little later, you were obviously able to prove them wrong. Uh, you had mentioned too, some of the choices that you had made, and wanting to give back here. And in the intro, we introduced that you are a founder of Rise Above. So talk to us a little bit about the great work that you are doing with Rise Above, and what it means to you to do what you get to do every single day.
Yeah, so Rise Above was founded a little over 5 years ago. And the way it was founded was really, I came to Seattle to start a new journey for myself. And the nonprofit that I came over to work with, unfortunately didn't make it. And, I didn't really do my due diligence on working for a nonprofit. And you all know the hard work that goes into running a business. And it forced me really to figure out what I wanted to do. And it forced me to really plan on how I wanted to give back to kids. And, Rise Above was founded, with my co-founder, Brad, and we kind of emulated a couple other organizations that are doing similar work, and use this sport as a modality to empower kids. Because if I think about my life story, my journey, it's not there without basketball. It's it wouldn't have happened without basketball. I don't think that my family would have been able to send me to college, for sure not at a Division I school, if I didn't have basketball to pay my way. So sports for Rise Above is just the modality, though. We want to meet kids where they're at and really empower them and educate them. And, we tailor all of our programs and clinics to the needs of each of our communities that we work with. So we work with, Native American tribes and organizations, and we're currently working with the city of Seattle, the urban Native youth in Seattle. So, it's been really a blessing to be able to work with folks like, Gary Payton, who we'll see in the video shortly, Coach Lenny Wilkins, the only 3-time Hall of Famer. And they're sitting here talking about how important my story is to be shared. And sometimes it is like a surreal moment where you see these athletes and these people that have accomplished so much in their life talking about how important my story is. It's really cool. And um, I think we say this all the time, that our kids need more heroes. One of our founding board members for Rise Above said that, our kids need more heroes. We need to be able to see people like us, doing good and being in mainstream media. And I think that through Rise Above, this is going to be a complete social movement, not only with, the film that's going on, but our Rise Above centers that are happening. And then we hope to just really create Rise Above as a national program for our youth. So in the picture that's on the screen right now, that's actually an interview with ESPN, and just talking about the journey. And the guy on the left actually broadcasted one of my games in Lapwai. So it was a really small world experience in that interview.
Wow, I can't even imagine. I do believe we have a video here. Jaci, cue us up for this video. What is taking place? Really set the scene for us and our audience. I know that you were highlighted on the news here, so set us up for us and take us through it.
Yeah, so the video we're going to be showing right now is actually one of our very first and only football clinics that we had. So Michael Bennett, who was a former Seattle Seahawk, we partnered with a few organizations, Galanda Broadman and the Tulalip tribes, to bring Michael Bennett to the Tulalip Indian Reservation. And we had over, I think, 300 kids on the field, and it was all about health and wellness and how health and wellness can impact our communities and the importance of it. So it was a really amazing clinic. So this is Pele, his wife. She's amazing.
Someone feed you, go get it! Go get it! Touchdown! Well, my purpose is just to be with people, give everybody an opportunity to see the team and the players that they like to see, and just build a bridge from the community into the stadium. And I think it's important that to be able to give the tribal people and the people of Seattle, the original people, opportunity to be with the players. So I felt like when I got in a position to be able to have camps and be able to have things for kids, it would always be free.
I mean, you could just feel the positive energy right now. Like, if you're standing here, like, you feel the positive energy. These kids are going to remember catching a pass from Michael Bennett for the rest of their lives. And there's no way to measure how these clinics and how these camps impact kids long term.
I grew up watching Muhammad Ali, and I think whenever I grew up watching Muhammad Ali, it was so much about people. It was always about, breaking down the barriers, regardless of race, regardless of gender, regardless of anything, sexuality. It was just really about, bringing people together and giving them a voice, and bringing people from all over is everything. And I think when you're an athlete and you don't really understand sometimes the magnitude of your presence to other people and what you mean to people. And I think it shows when you can come to a place in a short amount of time and gather a lot of people and you see what they mean and what it means to them. So I just think it's just an honor to be able to bring people from all over Seattle, all over Washington.
We want to also present this with you, for you. 12-man drum. Yeah. One, two, three.
I'm contractually, I can't say that contractually now.
On behalf of Tulalip Tribes, I want to thank you for your time and your commitment to step forward here, and all the other participants. Rise Above, and of course our tribal different teams that come together at times like this. And it's really motivating to hear your words talk about community, because that's what we are. And it's what keeps us here today.
Thank you guys so much for coming through. This has been so much fun.
Wow, Jaci, you mentioned in that clip, in that video, that there's no way to measure how these clinics, affect kids long term. How would you respond to yourself that? How have you seen these clinics affect kids?
I say that because, a lot of times when we're going out and we're, trying to secure funding from different partners, and everything's always data driven, like what's your data, and we can give them our numbers and how many kids that we've impacted and how many kids that have come through our doors, so to speak. But when you're playing a sport, if I put myself in their shoes, right? So if I was growing up on the reservation and I had somebody like a Michael Bennett or a Gary Payton come to my hometown, I would have lost my mind. And you look up to these people, and they, as kids, those are your heroes. These professional athletes, that's what you aspire to be. And they're taking their time out of their lives to come and spend time with you on, your own homeland. I mean, it's just, it really is inspiring to see the kids, see their smiles, and see, what they get from it. You know, we've had kids come up to us in one of our suicide prevention clinics or suicide awareness clinics, and we're going through our surveys. We do a survey to keep data relevant. And, you know, she's almost in tears and she's like, I've checked all of these boxes. Does that make me a bad person? And we're like, no. And, you know, we have people on hand to be able to address kids that are having these struggles going through these surveys and, you know, kind of listen to our education and prevention talks. But we have kids, you know, parents that are texting us the pictures of kids and he can't stop smiling and he's never smiled like this for 2 weeks or, you know, whatever that is. And I just think the impact that professional athletes have on kids is really huge.
So if you could have any athlete join one of your clinics, or, you know, maybe a top three, since choosing one's always difficult, but if you could choose any athlete in the world, who would you want to come work with your kids?
Oh man, that's a tough question. Serena Williams, for sure. She's an amazing, amazing athlete. I think I would choose also Kyrie Irving. He's recently come out about, you know, his mom being taken from her tribe and being placed in another family. And so he never knew who his tribe was growing up. And he never knew this part of who he was, his cultural identity was taken from him. So I think that would be cool to have Kyrie Irving. And then let's see, let's round it out here. Oh man, there's so many great athletes. You know, it had to be somebody giving back. And I think that's the important thing. I think, you know, a Maya Moore would be cool, is, you know, all of her work, taking time off out of her season to give back, and all the social justice issues that, you know, are going on. And I think is really cool.
Yeah. You know, Jackie, we have another video that you had shared with us too. This particular one is from, you were on the news in your organization. So cue us up here. What are we going to watch?
So this next clinic is really we were at the Colville Indian Reservation in Washington State, and that's when Gary Payton came out, and it was one of I think our very first clinic with that particular tribe, but the second clinic that Gary came out to, and he's just, he's been great. And I think that, you know, when you have a Hall of Famer coming out to the reservation again, that just, it's really powerful, not only for the kids, but, you know, for the parents who watched him growing up or who were fans of the Sonics. And, you know, just that little bit of like smile and hope, and this is cool. And, you know, taking pride in where you're from and being able to bring that is really an amazing feeling. So this was a really cool camp, and it was one of our very first kind of features in the news. So it's pretty special.
Well, it was one of the best to ever put on a Sonics jersey. Now Gary Payton is giving back away from the court with a trip to the Cooley Dam. The Hall of Famer passing on plenty of wisdom, including some to our very own Will Sherritt.
Most love the offensive side of basketball. However, when an NBA Hall of Famer known for his defense is in town, you have to get in the stance.
Well, sometimes I need to pinch myself to see it, you know, if it's really happening. Do we have Gary Payton on the Colville Indian Reservation?
But here at Lake Roosevelt High School, there's one goal more important than improving your game.
To have these kids feel comfortable enough about them not being a follower, but being a leader.
Gary Payton?
If they want you to drink alcohol and they offering it to you, and they supposed to be your friend, do you think they're your friend? No.
And elite youth camps, along with some financial help from the Colville tribe.
I think the instructions were nobody gets turned away, even if they're full.
Teaming up with Rise Above, an organization dedicated to empowering Native youth to live healthy lives.
The goals of the clinic are really to make kids feel better. Dream big dreams, and anything is possible.
Highlighted by Payton opening up about his past.
I have to show them that I came from something that was nothing too, and I got out of it too. And I give them examples about my friends. What happened? One of the biggest drug dealers in Oakland, California. At the age of 20, he went to jail. He got 35 years to life. He's still in jail at this point. He's been in jail for 26 years.
Honestly, he's so involved and so committed to the kids.
You doing good in school and all that? Yeah. All right, that's what I want to hear.
It's really been a great relationship and a great partnership for us.
A partnership that he vows will grow. As one of the greatest athletes the Northwest has ever seen, will continue to play his signature defense.
One thing you want to make better.
Against the negative influences around our youth.
If you want a hero, get a person that's doing the right thing every day. And then grow up to be that person that you know you can be.
Again, we'll share that report. Thanks for that story. But how cool those kids to see Gary Payton, somebody that was so successful for the Sonics. A lot of those kids.
Yay. I hate pictures and I hate videos. So that was cool anyway, though.
Wow. You know, in that clip, Gary Payton is shown speaking to his struggles, how he overcame them. You know, he's talking directly with kids about not being a follower and, you know, themselves. And you've mentioned that your clinics, you work with suicide prevention and all other things. Talk to us a little bit about the programming at Rise Above and what it is that Rise Above offers and frequency as well. How often do you do these clinics?
Well, we're not doing any clinics right now, thanks COVID. But prior to that, you know, we work, you know, our partners are American Indian tribes in the Pacific Northwest, and we really try and tailor each of our clinics to the needs of each community. So we've had clinics on, you know, alcohol and drug prevention. We've had diabetes awareness and prevention, healthy relationships, suicide awareness, and, you know, most recently we've spoken about basic health and wellness and the financial management clinics. We've talked about doing those, but we, you know, we really try and tailor each of the clinics, and we don't want to be like this one-hit wonder that comes in one time, does a clinic and leaves. We really want to be able to, you know, like track kids on how our program is able to help them over the years, and that's why we're working on, you know, really becoming a national program and, you know, creating more mentorship opportunities for kids through Rise Above and matching them up with healthy people, you know, not just somebody who wants to be with a kid because it looks cool on Facebook or Instagram or something. Somebody who actually likes spending time with kids and actually likes kids and wants to help, because I think that's important. One of our, you know, board members, Dr. Washula, always talks about the importance of having one person in our lives that we can count on. And I think that's important, especially for kids, to be able to have somebody in their lives that they can count on. And it changes their life dramatically if they just have one. So each of our clinics, we say, be one to just one, right? So, and that's how we create change.
Wow. It's got to be really inspiring, as you said earlier, you know, to have someone to look up to and someone that, you know, these kids get to see. And not only that, like you said, they look like you, and you know, there's representation there as well. So, you know, what's next for Rise Above? COVID has changed the world. So what's next for you in this, you know, what's been a really tumultuous year and probably going into one with a lot of question marks?
Yeah, so we've actually been very busy through COVID working for, you know, building Rise Above, and we're working on doing some filming for Rise Above to support, you know, all the work that is coming. We've been focused on the Rise Above film, and that's been quite an experience. And, you know, I've learned a lot. And so hopefully the film is, you know, still progressing, and as we move forward, and we were hoping to film next year. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. So the movie is a big aspect, and we're hoping that the movie creates this social movement to empower kids, to empower families, especially communities of color and Native families, and create this really positive social movement. On the flip side of that, we're working also on, you know, a brick and mortar for Rise Above in Spokane, Washington, working with the Kalispel tribe, who have been just a tremendous support for us and give Rise Above a home. And, you know, in in that facility, we'll have athletic, games and basketball games, volleyball games, whatever that looks like. We'll also have an ability to impact kids through classrooms and, do college prep tournaments or, something like that, be creative and really continue to integrate education and prevention into all of our work for Rise Above. So we have a lot of exciting things ahead, and I think it's going to be a great 2021 despite anything that COVID's trying to bring.
I know it will, and I wish you all the best luck with that. The video, Hollywood's calling, right? How exciting! A couple of questions have come in where we have some curiosity about you and how you work with others too. There's a question in from Facebook. You had talked a lot about your experience and struggles, you faced as a Native American and various levels. Have you been met with any adversity as an LGBTQ individual through your journey at any point?
I don't know that I've been met with any adversity like from anyone else. It was more of like, trying to figure out who I am as a person. And, society constantly wants to put us in all of these boxes, like check the box, who are you, And I really wasn't sure who I was. I really wasn't sure who I was as a person or who I was attracted to. And, I'm almost 40 years old now, which is scary. But really what I've come to learn is, growing up in the small community and not being, I've seen, other people not be accepted for who they are, whatever it was, whatever they chose to be. And then growing up, as a Catholic and in church and the teachings, and it was just, I never knew, like, that's why I said in the beginning, I never knew how much my environment impacted me. And I knew my parents loved me and I knew my parents had always loved me, but still it's that like uneasiness of like, who am I? And are you really gonna love me? And so it's not so much adversity with others. I think it was more of like finding out who I was, and, who I am now is like, I feel like I'm very fluid. And, I was talking to my best friend yesterday, and she was talking about how the term two-spirit has helped her, and it's helped her really to deal with like who she is and overcoming, her demons and helping her get past all of those things. So I think however we identify ourselves is whatever is healthiest for us, right? And my connection is less about what your gender is. My connection is more about who you are as a person, and am I attracted to you as a person? And yeah, so it's less about the adversity with others, more about like what's in here.
Words to live by, for sure. There was something you said earlier on in tonight's event, in that when you were describing your upbringing, you said, if you could find a basketball, you could find peace. Thinking about that and thinking about today, what brings you peace today?
I think today still, my faith is still a big part of who I am. And, the Pope's recent, affirmation on civil unions was huge. And that was huge for anybody who's in, the Catholic Church who's struggling with that. That was a big deal. And so faith is still a very big part of my life. But I also recently enjoy road biking. I go out there and I bike, and it's so peaceful. It's so quiet. It's just me, and I love it. But I don't get to play basketball as much, but I would still love to shoot around. But it's more of just finding a quiet place and, spending time with myself and my thoughts and working those out. And, I think faith is the biggest thing for me that brings me peace, for sure.
Yeah, thank you. I'm always curious here. Who would you consider a personal hero of yours?
Oh man, I have so many personal heroes. Right now, somebody who is, she was my hero growing up, but right now it's my sister. She has overcome so much in the last like 6 months, and she's so strong, and I when I talk with her, I feel her strength, and what she's doing like really inspires me. Um, so she's one of them. My mom, obviously, but there's so many people. It's constantly changing, and the people that I meet, and the more time that I spend with people, the work that they do and the energy that they bring, it catches on, and I love it. So right now, it's my sister. She brings me inspiration, and she brings me hope, and um, I just love her strength that she's showing, and she's being super resilient right now, and I love it.
Resiliency is something that all of us have had to find in some way or another with this past year here too. Um, you think about the story that you've shared so far, starting, on your reservation, moving to an affluent school away from your family, and then 32 hours east to Illinois. And, here you are now doing all of this great work. But if you could give yourself some advice back when you were younger, in your younger days, what would that be?
It's so funny. Like, this is probably the third time I've been asked this, and I actually gave a talk. I gave a talk to young girls at Lapwai. I think the beginning of this. No, it was the end of last year. I don't know. Anyways, time is escaping me. So when I talked to them, I actually kind of told them my journey, like I shared with you, and then I said, okay, now I'm going to go back and I'm going to tell you what I would tell 14-year-old Jackie. And the things I would tell 14-year-old Jackie were just dramatic, right? Like, so I related it to my experience there. But, overall, I think one of the things that if I could go back and tell 14-year-old Jackie at the beginning of her high school career is people are going to expect a lot of things from you. And it's okay to say no to people. And people are going to compare you to others. And it's okay to be who you are. And what the motto for Rise Above is be a pro at being you, right? And if I would tell my 14-year-old self, just be a pro at being you. It doesn't matter anything else. And the last thing I would tell myself is it's okay to be unapologetically great. And you never really hear that, right? And if somebody would have told me, be who you are, it's okay to freaking be great, and it's okay to say no to people, that would have changed my life, right? Like, but those are some of the things that, I'm my oldest niece, I'm her godmother, and I try and tell her all the things I wish somebody would have told me as a 14-year-old kid. I don't know if she's going to listen. I don't know if I would have listened, but it would have been nice. It's a nice thought, right? To think that you would have listened to everything that was told to you. But those are some of the things I definitely would have told my 14-year-old self.
Yeah. Jackie, how can somebody, how can we support the work that you do with Rise Above?
Right now, because we are, all, on social media, online, is really, just spread the word about Rise Above. If you want to donate, great, but it's more about spreading the word. And if you, have a connection, I think the network is big. Networking is a huge deal. And if you see a program or see something that fits, connect us. That's our biggest thing, is really making those important connections, because we can't be everywhere. We can't be all things to all people. And I know that the network that you guys have is large also. And, anybody who's like-minded, like-visioned, like-missioned, we would love to be able to partner, or, just spreading the word about Rise Above and who we are and this movement that we're trying to make. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Jackie. I do see that we're going to be posting some of your information on our Facebook pages and our social medias. How could someone best get in contact with you if there are further questions or they want to offer their support?
Yeah, so we actually just made our website live, and do you want me to say, or are we going to post it at the end?
We will definitely post it.
Okay.
Say it, please.
Okay, so our website for Rise Above is nativeyouthriseabove.org, and our handles on social media are at Rise Above Inc. And my social media is just my name. So feel free. I would love to speak to anyone who is willing to collaborate and listen.
Yeah. Jackie, it shouldn't go unsaid that you are doing some amazing work. You are an inspiration to so many, and I just want to extend my personal thanks for you joining us, for sharing your story and your journeys here in Central Iowa and hopefully all across the U.S. Thank you. We really enjoyed hearing from you.
Yes, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, great. And, as always, thank you everybody for joining us. Keep your eye out on Facebook, all of our socials as we spotlight our upcoming events, including our Holiday Storyteller series, where we will be seeking to highlight and share how LGBTQ identities interface with the holidays. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to check out our website at capitalcitypride.org for more information on our events. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe and take care of each other.